I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Glad to have everybody here this afternoon. Beautiful day. Let's approve the minutes of the statutory and regular meetings that we held on April the 16th, 2019. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Wilkerson, second by Mr. Baker. Is that an all yes vote?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's go down. Public comments. No one has signed in. Have they, Mr. Ellis?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. We have our sign-in comment. Of course, as everyone knows, anyone who would like to address the board is always free to come and sign in, even if they aren't on the agenda. We can't have a communication as far as talking back and forth, but we certainly listen. Okay, let's go to our presentations that are on the agenda. The first item here, John McCluskey was to be with us today, the state auditor, but he had another commitment. So in his place, we have two gentlemen from the state auditor's office, Josh Barker and Anthony Woods. Is that correct? And I'll let you guys come on up and do what you got to do.
Can we present this check first and get a picture?
Yes, and then are you going to introduce Delegate Maynard, or do you want me to say that Maynard is also with you? Ever how you guys got this planned? The floor is yours.
Thank you, guys.
The check is what it is recently our office changed from United Bank to Fifth Third, and out of good gracious, we've had a few school boards back out on us in the Eastern Panhandle, and majority, everybody stayed with us down here, and everybody that stayed with the P-card, we give them a bonus check for staying with us, and I think your all's check was a little bit over 10,000.
Pretty 10,000.
And that's for what you guys want to do with it. You know,
Thank you
you'll
very
still get your regular rebate check, but this is a bonus for sticking with the program.
Anytime you want to give us a bonus, thank you.
There it is.
Delegate Zach Maynard is going to will speak now.
Yeah, I just wanted to go over, what JB's office and what he's been able to do with the P-card and get those savings back to these local boards of education, and what it really means to small counties across the state, especially ours. When you get an influx of money of $10,000 for doing a good due diligence, people like that, and the boards like that, and people in Lincoln County like that. So when Josh asked me to present the check, I was more than happy to, because I know, tough times have been in Lincoln County, but, we're still going to move forward and try to prosper. So, thank you very much. You want to come up?
No, you go ahead. I'm not running for anything in Lincoln County.
John wants to take a picture.
3, 2, thank you.
This Boone County might be a little bit.
As Mr. Barker said, we certainly appreciate all checks that we've received, and this check is actually in the amount of $10,530.14, so over $10,000. And the way we understand this can be spent at our
Yeah,
discretion.
you can put it in your general fund.
Okay. Okay, Mr. McNeil, I'll let you be responsible for that, and I'm sure that you guys can find a place where you think we might best use that.
I said Greg's already got an idea.
Yeah.
He's got that look on his face.
Yeah, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. But once again, the P-card system is one that we utilize, and I understand that Mr. Meek is well pleased with it. Yes. And hopefully that'll be something we'll, because it's beneficial to us in a lot of ways, help us track things much easier. So, we're well satisfied with it. If we get an additional bonus, we like it even more. So we appreciate that very much. And we thank you all for coming down here today. I know you don't mind coming, because now you get, I understand you're going to get a lunch here in a few minutes. And that's always a good thing too. But we appreciate all you coming today. Delegate Maynard, we appreciate you coming in to talk to us. And like I say, anytime you'd like to come and address the board, feel free to either get on our agenda and we can discuss things, or if you just want to come and speak, you're more than welcome. We appreciate having you come see us.
The presentation we have, is our website, westvirginiacheckbook.gov. We have been traveling all over the state. Last summer, we visited all 55 county commissions. As of right now, we have about 30 county commissions ready go online with this website.
Okay. Are you going to show us something on the screen?
Yeah, we're just
Okay.
wanting.
When we do that, can somebody like turn, set the lights up so we can see that better, please? Not both of us, but one, just so it's better, easier to see that. Okay, John, go ahead.
We've got about 30 county commissions. The company's a little bit behind right now. We have, I think we visited about, you guys are probably about our 20th school board. We have about 5 or 6 school boards, maybe a little bit more. I haven't looked at the actual data yet. We do not have any school boards online yet with this program. Probably within the next month, Logan should be up and Brooke County. Those will be our first 2 that go online. This tells exact of what every penny that you all spend. It's a transparency website, and he's been it's been in the news. I've never seen an auditor get in the news as much as he has over this. So he's going to do the demonstration of what all it can do, and if y'all have any questions, we'll be more than happy to ask. And I'll throw a few things out there. If you all decide to do this, and you can't afford to do it, we will give it to you for free. We have already purchased it. I want to throw that out there first. We want everybody to be online with this. Our ultimate goal is to be able to save you at least 5% on your audit when we get up and going. That doesn't mean the next audit, if you do it today, it doesn't mean that's going to happen. It will be down the road. Also, if you decide to do it today and you want to drop it tomorrow, we can drop it. There is no contract involved. It's at your discretion. So,
Well, that'll be something we can look at. Now, you explained to me prior to the meeting there what you mean by us being able to save money on our audits, that some of the work that the auditors presently do, they can do online and not actually.
that's the ultimate goal, is to be able to sit down and do it all online. I mean, we're in 2019, this is not 1960 anymore. Everybody's doing away with paper and everything's going digital. I don't even think we write any checks anymore. Everything's done online,
Right.
So that's the way of the future. So this is what we're trying to move into and trying to make everybody's jobs easier and make your all's job easier. And that's the ultimate goal.
We welcome to see.
And this is Anthony Woods. He's actually over the program, and I work with him, and we've just been tag teaming. But the auditor has been doing all these presentations, and he's very sorry he couldn't be here today. And I actually called and canceled, and then they called yesterday and said, y'all are on the agenda, so we rushed down here and we're here.
Well, he's handed
To
it
get it
off
over
to you
with.
guys, so you're doing a good job.
And the auditor did tell me if any of y'all want to meet with him, he is more than happy to do that. Monday to Friday, he can make a time to come down and meet with you guys about it, so.
Okay, will you explain it to us, Mr. Woods, today, and then that'll give us time, and Mr. Midkiff and his staff time to look at things, and then we'll see where we go. But the floor is yours.
Thanks. And so this is our WB checkbook site, and what this is it comes from our statewide accounting system called OASIS. And what it does is it takes the data in and it presents different ways to visualize how the state is spending money. And for you guys and all the other boards of ed, we would be taking data from your Rebus system and doing something very similar. So let me give you a little demonstration and show what it can do. This first tab is expense and revenue transactions. And if you go down through here, you can see the vendor names and the amounts. Here you can see a column for departments because we have a number of state departments, state police, DNR, Workforce West Virginia, but you can actually configure that to the different departments in the Board of Ed, such as the central office, different schools, maintenance, that sort of thing. It gives an example of the different types of expenditures. So here you can see, and I apologize, we kind of just shrink it down on that screen, but you can see the different categories of expenditures. So when the public goes out there, they can see the different categories of personal services, supplies, school buses, that sort of thing. And it also provides the fund that it's paid from. So you have a general fund, you might have some other funds, and so it can capture that information from each of those expense transactions and present it in a format that the public can understand exactly where your money is going. What's nice about this system too is it also provides some powerful visualization tools. So here This is statewide, so there's billions and billions of dollars, but you can see here, this is how the state is spending its money. So the big bulk of that you can see is current expenses, things like rent and supplies and computers. A big chunk also is employee benefits, and then other assets. Highways is a big topic right now. They're going out and buying graders and spreaders and that sort of thing. So things like that would fall into that category. You can change the visualization.
And it's very up to date. I mean, if we bought a car today, tomorrow morning it would be on the website.
You can change the visualization so it provides different ways to show that data. And so you can see here at the bottom, we can actually go back to prior years. So it can show trends over time. So a lot of people will go on there and say, how much has the state spent in this particular department over time? And this software platform provides the citizens and some of the state agencies the opportunity to do that. What a lot of people go to, this shows the vendor payments, but it also shows revenues. And I'll circle back in a minute to that. But the thing that gets the most traffic on our site is vendor payments. And so you can see here, this actually breaks it out by vendor. Before we saw it by expense category, here this shows things by vendor. And so where you're seeing so many things like Caremark and DHHR and PEIA and United Bank, that is debt service for the state. That is employee prescription benefits, employee health benefits. So if you set something up like this, your top vendors would also be shown, who you expend the most money to. And of course, this is powerful in that if you want to drill down, you can click one of these data components. And it will also drill down and give you more data. Not only in this visual format here, but also all the payments made to that vendor. So there's a number of ways that you can customize these different views and see the different types of information. I know with the state, there's so many departments and so many funds that you almost have to do that to get the answer to the questions that you ask. But for you guys, you might be interested in using that on a managerial level. So if you want to see a particular vendor's a wedge on that pie chart, and you want to see different transactions made to that vendor, you can click that component, and it will give that component to you. This is the monthly actual revenues and expenses. So this is very similar to expense and revenue transactions, but this is kind of geared towards a trend over time. It's probably pulling in a lot of data, so it might take a moment to refresh. Okay, and so you can see here, this is our revenues versus expenses, and it's going way back about 5 months. And in that regard, you can see that our expenses are just a little under our revenues in April of 2019. So we're just underspending that. And what's nice is you can actually go through, and let's say we want to see revenues. If you click down into that data tab, you can actually see that broken down by the types of revenue. So you can see general revenue here at the bottom. If you want to know what the actuals are, you can hover over those data points. And so it's about $3.9 billion. It's a 17.46% change. And that's true for these others. So federal revenue, that's $4 billion. And then special revenue, it's about $3.8 billion. If you wanted to see that in a line graph, for example, over time, you could just change the visualization like that. If you tried to do that in Excel, you'd have to change the type of the graph and make sure your data was pulling in the same way. But with this portal, the data's already there. It just knows how to make those graphs and charts on the fly. If you implement this here at the Board of Ed, what's nice about this as well is if you want a nice graphic to put in a report, or if you have another Board of Ed meeting, you won't have to go out and make a presentation and print things off. You can load this up on your screen, and then the public and any guests, and even you guys on the Board of Ed can see that data right there on the screen. If you want to download the graphics or even the data, there's also a share button. You can share this on social media. You can email this to a colleague or someone who might be inquiring about that information. And you can download these visualizations and paste them into Word and Excel. And you can actually take this data down here, because you can see this tabular data, and you can download that into a spreadsheet. So it not only provides a way for the public to get this information, it will actually probably help you guys get the data out of Weavis and kind of play with it and visualize it in ways that you might find it to be useful.
Go to the search bar.
Okay.
Name a store in the mall that you wouldn't want somebody to use a P card in.
Macy's.
Victoria's Secret.
Victoria's Secret? All right, let's see. We'll see if there's any vendor payments. Oh, we have a result. It looks like we do have some payments for this.
And what these are,
This one we thought it could be
and we
more.
have a tab on here that you can email the Supreme Court and you can show that to them.
They don't spell down.
Question is, he's showing you this right now. You can send this, it shows the view check, then you can go down and question the Supreme Court why they spent that money at the Victoria's Secret. And if they don't answer you back within 3 days, our office gets it, and we're gonna find out why they spent that money, and we're gonna get you an answer. Now, the money that they spent was gift cards for drug court. Now, it's not up to us to tell if that's right or wrong to give it to drug court, but it is our ability to be able to give you all what the state is spending on your tax dollars. And that's what this website is, and that's the neat thing that I really like about it. So you can put anything in that search bar, and it's gonna pop something up and tell you what we are spending over in Charleston. Not our office, but somebody. I hope it's not our office. I mean, if you pay close attention to the state legislature last session, the Committee on Finance really used this a lot this session, and the Department of Education got raked over the coals over spending $100,000 on coffee and just all kinds of crazy stuff on catering, $200,000, and all that information is in there. Well, Steve Payne was not ready for those kind of questions when he went in front of the finance, because this is up-to-date data, and they were just putting it in the search bars and bringing it up in that kind of time, and it's a great tool. It really is.
And one thing that this tool has actually kind of helped with in our office, I used to do all the FOIAs for the auditor's office, and I don't know if you guys get a lot of FOIAs, but it seemed like we always had, every week, someone submit a FOIA for something that would take hours and hours to go through and pull records and make copies. And then the next week, they had a completely different FOIA for something different, and you're like, what is this person doing with all this data? This is a way, it can't answer every FOIA, but this is a way for those Freedom of Information Act requests. Some of those could probably be steered to this site. So if someone submits one of those Freedom of Information Act requests and says, how much money did you spend on this particular vendor? You, in the old days, or currently, you would have to go compile that information, maybe run some reports out of Weavis, get them that data. Here, you can just direct them there, because that information is available, and it's in real time. So we've had a couple instances where our state FOIAs have not taken as much time because that information is now available out there for the public.
So if you decide to do this, we've already purchased your domain, and it'll be Lincoln County BOE checkable. So it's already set up.
Another thing that this can show is the budget. And so this is statewide what the budget looks like. And you can see it's broken out into these different categories. The current expenses, the personal services. You can, on all of these, you can see the different visualizations of the data. If you drill down, like let's see what we wanted to see, let's look at assets. You can actually drill down, and now instead of seeing the main categories here, we can see the different types of assets. computer equipment, vehicles. I know there's been a lot of talk about the fleet lately. And so that's probably due to the attention that the state's been getting about purchasing vehicles, because there were some agencies, they get 20,000 miles on a car, they go buy another one, you know. So you can see here, that is likely the result of the legislative changes for the state fleet. And so the vehicle purchases, that budget has shrunk considerably because they're not buying as many vehicles. So your budgeting information could likely be here as well. And you can see your actual budget versus what you have budgeted, how much you're spending in each particular category versus what you budgeted for that category. And you can always, what's nice about this system is you're drilling down a lot into data, but sometimes you want to go back up to that really top level and see where you're at. You can go back a step and it'll take you back to where we were. Just going to pull that data and see we just went up one level. You can also show the path that took to get there. So if you decide to really have that level of detail in it, you can go and see the path that you took to get there. So you're not constantly trying to find where you're at in the system. And if you just want to go back up to the very tip top, you just hit the reset and it just takes you back up. And you can go down another rabbit hole and look at various types of data. So it's just a way, it's just another tool in your toolbox to make managerial decisions, to assist you with reporting and data, and also for the public to be able to get that information and be just as informed as you are about the board's finances. I'm going to go to this bottom tab here, look at department expenses. These reports are configurable, so if you wanted something a little different from what this presents, we can configure those reports for you to be tailored just for you. These are kind of broad because, you know, we have so many departments in the state doing so many different things that they kind of kept it broad on purpose. But for you all, we could tie in custom reports for you to show particular data points. If you guys wanted, what they've done here is if you wanted to see spending by a different state agency, since it is so big and there's so many large agencies, this report will show those departments. You can also come down here in the sidebar and you can set up these custom views. So all of this is configurable. If someone pulls up that vendor payments listing and they want to see a particular vendor, they can filter and sort just like Excel. But you can actually set up views so they don't have to do that. So there's some instances where you might find something in your budget. Maybe how much did we spend on school buses? How much did we spend on teacher salaries? And you can set a view up to there where they just click it and it pulls that data right there for them. And it just kind of presets that report so they don't have to do it. So there's a number of filtering and view options that exist in this system. And we can look here at Auditor's Office. And so here are our expenses for these different categories for these different years. And when you come up here, here's that pie chart. We can do it in a bar graph. If we wanted to say, hey, how much have we spent on payroll? We can do that in a line graph. And so we've decreased our payroll actually by, well, let's see, from 2016 to 17 to 2017 to 18, we decreased our payroll 9%. And so that information is that quick. Before we would have to run reports out of our OASIS system, throw in Excel, calculate these percentage changes, it's right there. Because it's already using the data that exists in your WEBA system. We just import it in. And it's just a way for you guys to make managerial decisions and for these guys to know what's going on and keeping the public informed. So,
Y'all have any questions for us?
I have one. What would this entail as far as our finance department? Is this going to cause additional work for them to do? To
About 20
input the
minutes
data?
every 2 weeks.
and it's up to them. We are letting the counties and the boards, and we're implementing this in cities as well. How this system works is it takes data in from Excel. So all the hard part really is getting it out of WEBIS to Excel. And as long as we can import that in, they can do it every 2 weeks. They can do it monthly. We've suggested to some of our cities that we're putting this into, like on the 1st of each month, take all the data for the prior month and import it in. So April 1st, we load in March, and then at the end of April, we load in April. So you can do it that way. You could do it every 2 weeks, so that would be something that we would work closely with your finance
Can't stress
department.
enough, this is your website.
Exactly.
It's yours, you do with it what you want and how you want to download it.
Okay, well, as far as expenditures, you mentioned that one, being
Mhm.
able to access those members of the public. You know, like today, for instance, at all board meetings, we approve expenditures, various invoices and
Mhm.
payments. Now, I'm just trying to think as far as the finance department, obviously, they've already compiled that and it's somewhere in their system.
Mhm.
It'd just be a matter of how that's then transposed over into into this website.
Mhm.
Is that, because it's already been done, and what it would take for Mr. Ellis's office to, you know, to include it there, that's why.
It takes a little bit of work to get it transferred over.
But once that's set, it can be done on a recurring basis. The hard part is just figuring out what fields are mapped where. So there is a lot of discussion at the beginning how that's gonna go, but once that's agreed upon, it's just a matter of just getting the data out and uploading it in. And it takes the data in and it loads it into that database and makes it available, so.
So initially, there would be more work involved than it would be if you were to continue that after each meeting, let's say. whatever.
Right. At the beginning, there would be a discussion as to what fields are going to come over, what information is displayed. We'll talk with you guys about kind of what reports you want and how your vision of this site is going to be. And then once we get that squared away, we can go ahead and work on getting that data from Weavis into the system.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions?
So, at some point, this would help us maybe expedite our audits that we,
JB's looking at maybe about 5%.
And then with the audits, a lot of times, you know how it is when you have audits, you have to have the auditors come down and find a place for them to work and everything, and that's kind of integral to the audit process, and we can't, I don't think, ever make that go away. But what the auditor's plan is as much work as those guys can do in Charleston from their computer, because they're looking at the same data set that comes out of Weavis, the better. So we're looking at ways to make that audit more efficient and leverage some of this technology to avoid having to be so, paper-based and working in different accounting systems. Of course, all the boards of ed use Weavis, but with Weavis, you have to get the reports and things. So he's looking to do whatever he can to make those audits more efficient.
Now, how much does this cost us?
You can't afford it, we'll give it to you.
We can't afford it. Well, what if we could afford it?
$3,000 to sign up, $1,800 each additional year. But if you can't afford it, the auditor wants everybody to be on it, and we want everybody to sign it.
Is there any coincidence that that's the reason you gave us a check today?
No.
Has nothing
You
to do
keep
with-
a check, we'll do it for free.
Okay. Well, I think, we're gonna, obviously, Mr. Nicky, if I have to get with Mr. Ellis and see what's
And
involved.
you guys got my number, you can call me anytime, any questions, I'll take it.
Well, it's already.
You can take yours too.
Sounds good, I'll say that.
Yeah, that's a lot of positive.
And I'll tell you from experience, when we first got into this and I first went to work for JB back in June of last year, I was like, I don't think this is gonna work. But over time of seeing over 100 of these presentations and using it for myself, it's a great thing. It's a great tool. Me and my wife was working on somebody's taxes the other night, and it was a state employee, we needed some information, and federal government was wanting $25 to send the information to them. So I got on this and typed in their name, and boom, all their information come up, and I was able to pull that off there and do their tax. So it's we don't put, if you're paying child support or anything like that on there, it's nothing like that. It's all public record.
Yeah, we did have that issue come up because this shows every expenditure that the state makes, but we don't necessarily want to share the net payroll of every employee. Of course, the gross payroll is available on our checkbook site, but we might not want to show the deductions of things. And there is a way for personal things or publicly identifiable things to mask that field to where they can see those expenses, but to whom they go, that's not shown, so.
It just seems like there would be instances where people might have a question about various expenditures. And being able to access that could really relieve
Yeah.
a phone call to asking somebody the very same thing here. Or it could generate one, I don't know, depending on something like that.
It's supposed to cut out FOIAs, it has a lot to do with it.
But I know, we just got our latest audit report here, and I just noticed in it, it has a bar graph in it. So when you showed it, I said, well, that looks familiar to me. And that was why, I guess.
Don't ask me anything about that.
Oh, we're not
I
going
can't,
to.
I ain't on that side of it.
You're good there. Okay. Anything else, gentlemen?
Appreciate your all's time.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming, and we'll certainly give her a look. and,
Finance man, right here. All right, I'll give you my card. Just reach out to me if you have any questions or need anything.
Hey, Mr. Lamb. Bill.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We can share.
See you.
Off to the M&R.
See you, buddy.
Thank you all, have a great day.
Ms. Cruz, would you turn this light back on, please? Thank you. Okay. All right, normally, as everyone, I wanted everybody to see, but it might not have a copy of our agenda so you can see where we were. Down under Roman numeral 4, presentations and reports, what we've just seen was the, what it shows here is the state auditor giving a report. So that's the portion of our agenda we're in. We're, as those that are familiar with this, know that's when we have discussions about something that's on our agenda. Right above that is public comments. And what that is for people that are not on our agenda that want to address the board, but they are on the agenda. So typically, the way it works is you come in, somebody who wanted to address the board would come prior to the board meeting started. They would write their name and what they want to talk about on that pink sheet of paper right over there at the end of the table. And then when we start the meeting, when we get down to public comments, as I've asked before you all got here, did anyone sign in to address the board today? And at that time, no one had. So what I'm going to do, though, is if there's somebody here that wants to address the board, I'm going to forego that part of our parliamentary procedure today. Should any of you like to speak to the board, if you would like to do so, I just need for you to sign your name in and what you want to talk about, and then I'll let you speak, okay? I realize that not everyone is aware of our the way the board meetings work, so that's why I'm going to make an exception here and allow you to come after we've had public comments already. And if you would just let me, Mr. Lee will give me that paper.
Okay.
And then we'll go over. You can just stand, or you can
Yeah,
stay right
sure.
here. Yeah. What I'm doing, I'm just going to, okay. Tasha, is that correct? Okay, Tasha Miller, and she's she wants to address the board on Guyan Valley Middle School issues. Now, just one, I'll say one more set of things here, then after that, I'll let you speak. Now, the only difference between somebody being on our agenda, which is they've contacted the superintendent's office ahead of time, and when our agenda went out, they're listed here like these people are. The only difference between that and you signing in to speak is that we can't talk back and forth with you. But we can certainly listen to you, and we're going to hear what you got to say. But, it's not that we're being disrespectful or anything. We're just not able to, if you aren't on our agenda, this is the open meetings law, we aren't able to have a conversation back and forth or answer questions and things like that. But should you in the future want to actually do that and have a conversation with us, if you can get a hold of the superintendent prior to our meeting, like the Wednesday before a meeting on the following Tuesday, because our agendas go out 3 days ahead of time, then you can actually, we can have a conversation. But today, we will, you may speak about whatever you want to talk about there, but we're not being disrespectful, we just can't talk back, okay?
I understand completely.
Thank you, go right ahead.
So actually, I am here on behalf of my daughter. I live
met with Mr. Midkiff last Thursday Friday. I spoke with him on Thursday. My daughter was dress coded at Guyan Valley Middle School. Dress code's not my issue at all. I understand wholeheartedly the need for things like that, the things for rules. I'm a professional, have a bachelor's degree, almost a master's degree. I work as a professional on a daily basis within the hospital system. I'm an administrative employee there, so I understand the rules and I understand the dress code completely. My problem is with the consistency of it. And there are other parents who feel the same way. My daughter, the jeans that she was dress coded for is a pair of jeans that she has literally worn every week since August when school started. And they've never been a problem. So I'm also, as a professional, aware of chain of command. And I started at the school. I spoke with the employee at Guyan Valley Middle who did dress code my daughter. And I was informed that she would be in in-school suspension unless somebody could bring her clothes, or she could go to the clothing closet. I was working, my husband's working, my parents were both working at the time. They didn't take her clothes. I'm a nurse, and it's very hard for me to let my daughter put on clothes that have been donated without being laundered properly to kill infections, bed bugs, louse, scabies, whatever it may be. I can't. I just can't. And she knows that she's not to put on, even at a friend's house, don't wear somebody else's clothes, don't use somebody else's hairbrush. That's just mom's rules. So she told them she couldn't put on things from the clothing closet because her mother told her no. So she was put in school suspension. So when I'm talking to the Miss Ware, who's the guidance counselor at Guyan Valley Middle, I was instructed that these pants were inappropriate. And when I asked why they weren't inappropriate before Thursday, I was told that they were, and that she needed to change or she would be on in-school suspension. And I politely said, if I have to leave work, is somebody gonna pay my day's wages for having to leave work and come get my child pants when she's wore these pants all year and they've been appropriate till now? At which point she did raise her voice at me on the phone, and I asked to no longer speak with her. I wanted to speak to Miss Davis because I want to do this correctly. I want to be professional about it. So I talked to Miss Davis, who informed me that my child had broken the rules all year and no one had noticed her. What was interesting to me at that point was the fact that she had worn them at least once a week all year, and they had even taken a photo of her for the school yearbook during Spirit Week in these same pants, and they were fine. And the fact that I'm sending my kid to school for 30 weeks and you didn't notice her enough to make sure she was safe, you couldn't notice that she had pants on that were against the rules. You can't be looking at her to see if she's safe. So I did talk to Mr. Midkiff on Friday. He listened to all my concerns, and I do appreciate everything he's done, as well as Mr. Linville. I spoke with him yesterday. Yesterday I was a little more upset because yesterday I received no phone call from the school. My child got out of my car. I drop her off every day. I'm well aware of what she's wearing. She made it in the door and was sent directly to the office for her clothing. Again, not the same pair of pants, but again, a pair of clothes that she's worn all year that I felt was appropriate. Nothing was showing. Her hands were over top of where the shorts stopped. So yesterday when she was sent to the office, I was not informed. No one called me. And the children, her and the 4 other students that were sent to the office were told they were not calling their mommies. That was part of my issue yesterday, why I was very upset. Because if she's sent to the office because she's in trouble, I feel like someone should notify me as the parent, because she is a child. She's underage. Secondly, the other thing that I was quite upset about was the fact that when I did get notified an hour and a half into the punishment of in-school suspension, I was told I couldn't speak with her because that would cause her to get in more trouble. And simply all I needed to do was find out where clothes were, that I could have my mother take her something. How is me talking to her going to cause her to get in more trouble? So that's where my biggest issues lie. It's not with the dress code. It's not. It's with the fact that there's no consistency with it. She's worn these pants all year. They've not been a problem. They weren't cheap. They were $50 pants. And I instructed her, you are not to wear them again. They're against dress code. That's fine. But where was her, Alyssa, she's a straight A student, never been in trouble, doesn't cause any issues, she don't miss school unless she's super sick. There was no, Alyssa, you need to not wear those pants anymore. You can't wear those to school. I know you've worn them all year, but we've had to change some things. They're now inappropriate. We went directly to in-school suspension for a child who's never been in trouble. never been in trouble. She's a good egg, that's what I told Jackie, she's a good egg. She has very high expectations of herself as well as I have of her. She wants to go to med school. That's fantastic. She's not a problem student, and I don't understand why she's been targeted, and I feel like it's been a little bit of harassment since yesterday. And it was a little bit of a punitive response from the staff at Gown Valley yesterday, I really do. I don't know where the issue lies. You know, I've been told several things, but we all know how rumors are and opinions are, everybody has one. But I was told that the problem with the enforcement of the strict dress code starting last week was the fact that the weather had broke, girls were wearing things that were inappropriate, and boys were starting to behave inappropriately, pinch them on the bottom, what have you. So the girls then were told, you can't wear this, you can't wear that. I understand that, but we're sexualizing the girls, and we're not punishing the boys for things they're doing. And that's, as a nurse, I've worked on behavioral health, you're basically saying, if you dress this way and you get raped, it's your fault. That's not how life works. And I have taken this as a learning opportunity for my child, and I've explained to her that sometimes things happen in life that's unfair. You know, there's going to be people in places of authority that are going to do things that are not fair, that you don't think are fair. Maybe they are. There's going to be people in places of authority that make decisions that aren't always to your favor. Learn by it. I've not been rude about it. I've been very good to the school board. I had a great conversation with Mr. Linville yesterday. I had a great conversation with Mr. Meekiff the other day. But I feel like at this point, my child is now being pointed out at the school. Yesterday, what she had on was a pair of shorts, comfortable shorts is what I would call them, and a t-shirt with tennis shoes. Again, they were below her fingertips when she stood up. She's very tall. She doesn't get that from me, but she is very tall. And it's hard to find shorts that are 2 inches above her knee. And the other issue I have is we're now 30-some weeks into school. Why all of a sudden are we becoming strict with 20-some days left to the point that you send 30-some kids to a school office on Thursday? And yesterday there were 5, I believe, and today there were some that went to the office. And no warning, you know, again, no, Alyssa, you can't wear that anymore. She would not have worn it, I promise you. She listens to things she's told. She has respect. But, you know, I feel like the administration at Gown Valley has taken this way too far. I think there's a different way they could have handled it. One being, especially kids who don't cause trouble and haven't been in trouble, tell them, don't wear that again, it's inappropriate. We feel that it's inappropriate. Even if you don't, or your parent don't, I'm fine with that. Fine with that. We have other things that she can wear, and I've instructed her not to wear the 2 things that she got in trouble for again. I have no problem with that. But I'm not going to go buy a whole new wardrobe for 20-some days of school. You know, I'm not. She has things she can wear. We'll cycle through. She wore a pair of blue jeans today on an 85-degree day. She's got to live with it, because that's what Mom told her to wear to school. But my issue is with the administration of Gown Valley, how it was handled, the fact that Ms. Ware was very unprofessional, raised her voice at me. The fact that I didn't get a call yesterday when my child was sent to the office for punishment, and the fact that she was not allowed to speak to me on the phone. And after I had a moment to cool down, I did call back and I told them, it's okay. She and I will accept our punishment if she gets in trouble for talking to me, but I need to talk to my daughter. And so they did put her on the phone, and she was upset. She was crying. This is a kid who never cries. You could beat the brakes off of her and she wouldn't cry. I was quite upset yesterday, and I felt like I needed to talk to somebody. I followed the chain of command. They wouldn't call Mr. Limble back yesterday. He called me back twice, kept in touch, very professional, very satisfied with the way that they've handled it. My problem is with the way that it's been handled at Gown Valley. So I appreciate you going back and allowing me to speak. I didn't get off work in time to get here by 1, so thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Miller, and once again, we appreciate your comments, and although we can't speak about them, we certainly listen, and we may have further discussions outside of this, but just appreciate it. Okay, now let's go back to the agenda, please. Let's go down to under presentations and reports. Monty Kersey's going to talk about the 21st century school grant application. Ms. Kersey, if you all would like to leave, feel free to. If you'd like to stay, you're certainly welcome.
I'm going to hang on.
Okay. Ms. Kersey, or Dr. Kersey, excuse me.
This is our public announcement that Lincoln County Project Pride will be applying for the upcoming 21st Century Grant Cycle. This grant cycle is for the year 2019 through 2024. We will be applying for 3 different grants. The first grant will be Ranger in West Hamlet. The second grant will be for Guyan Valley Middle School. The third grant will be for Midway and Hamlin. These grants will have, this, through these grants, let's be positive, when we get these grants, that means that we will have an after-school program in every school in the county. These grants will bring in approximately $4,125,000 over a 5-year period. Any questions?
Now, which ones do we presently have, where do we have grants already that aren't included here?
The high school, Duval, and Harts.
Okay. When do those expire, do you recall?
We are in their second year right now,
Because they have a 5
so they have
years
3 more years.
after that. Okay. So this is our grants to seek for the other schools that do not, other
Yes.
than those 3?
Yes.
Anybody, anything else, Brownie?
Nope. You asked and she answered my question.
And there is some advantage, and the question would be why put Ranger and West Hamlin together? And there's,
Okay, the reason we chose to put this together are the priority points that are being awarded through the rubric. The Ranger and West Hamlin both are CSI schools, comprehensive schools, which will give them those extra priority points. Guyan Valley Middle School is a middle school, and it has 100% free and reduced, so they will get extra priority points for both of those. And Midway and Hamlin have had previous success with the program, only to see a decrease this past year after the program went. So that will show there is a need, give them priority points, as well as Hamlin is a middle school, so we will get priority points for those.
and another oddity with this grant application, which we saw this last year, is there's priority points given to geographical areas in the state.
The
right?
17 counties that have never applied for the 21st Century programs. They didn't apply last year as well. But they have been given, if they apply, they will be given priority points over the others who applied.
So just because they made a previous application, that gives you,
No,
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 because they have.
they haven't.
because they haven't?
Mhm.
I was trying to think, was there an advantage to applying or not, but now I'm not so sure.
So we feel more optimistic about Ranger, West Hamlin, Guyan Valley grants because of the bonus points.
Yes.
That those schools would receive through the grant application. Midway and Hamlin less optimistic. I mean, I know they were highly successful after-school programs, but the issue you run into here is that it is rare that a school receiving 21st Century after-school grants for 5 years gets another immediate grant.
Right.
You know, it's just not, they don't operate that way, so it's typically not back to back. However, since we applied for the first time last year trying to get money, that may.
It was denied, so they did not have a program this year. And like I said, it has shown a decline in academics. Not much, thank goodness, but there has been a decrease. And what I used for this to get for the statistics, I followed the cohort that we had at Hamlin and at Midway from the time they were in kindergarten, which was in their first year first grade, through their 5th grade year, which would have been their 5 years at our programs. And we measured the assessment, the state summative assessments, or West Test that we were using there, the growth, and there was significant growth. So we were able to use that growth and then the decline that they're showing in the recent benchmarks as a need. And also, I place interest surveys on our website and on social media through SurveyMonkey. And so far, we are at 144 responses with 100% saying yes, we are supporting the after-school programs.
Application deadline is,
May 31st,
and then we should know something.
July 1st.
By July 1st. whether we're successful or not.
And these are federal monies? is that right?
Yes.
Are you aware what your federal allocation is going to be for next year?
For the-
A lot depends upon this.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, in addition, you know what monies you're getting from the other schools, right?
Right. We'll know that we're still going to get 200,000 for that school,
Okay.
but I've estimated at the top, and the top for the two schools together is 220, and for just Guy Valley, it's 110. And then, of course, in their third years, it's an 80%, and then you get 80% of the original, and then back up, fourth year, you get 80%, fifth year is 70%.
Is that the way it always works?
Yes. Yes, and so taking in those calculations is where I came up with the $4,125,000.
But the grant money's guaranteed, so once you've been approved, you don't have to worry about what's going on in Washington. You know, that is a lump sum that's sent out to the states for 5 years.
What we were told is we are safe for the current grants. And we are told at the district, or our director's meeting, that these grants are supposed to be safe. If anything that comes into the 220 budget, that we'll start making the allowances. And now, there's not to say that something should happen, and then there will be what they call a decrease in funds until the programs are just made obsolete.
Hopefully that won't happen.
No, I'm hoping not. I told Susan Gamble that when she was up at Washington DC, if they needed research, she knew where to come. Because I haven't. Anything else?
I have anything up here?
We have a committee.
Yes.
That's been working on this.
We have it.
I know Dr. Louis Watts was here the other day, he said
Yep.
hello to me.
Yep, we had 4 principals, parent, community coordinator is working with us, as well as, the different community organizations throughout the county.
And we have last year's rubric, or how we were scored to
Yes.
reflect the bonds.
We've got that, and we've got the newer, this rubric is supposed to have been updated to reflect the grant in the GPS system, not the written grant.
I think we all agree that after-school programs have immense, it's just great advantages there for, students are able to participate in after-school activities from homework to games to speakers to whatever it might be. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that they're able to be successful.
Oh, yes, if anybody wants to see success, look at our Skills USA team. The majority of them are in my after-school programs.
Yeah.
So, yay,
Sounds good. Okay, thank you, Dr. Kersey.
thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, Superintendent Midkiff, we want to talk about the comprehensive education facility plan.
Okay, I'm gonna move out here to the podium.
Go right ahead. We have a handout, don't we?
Yeah, I gave you the handout, Greg, here's your copy of it. I need to send you the meeting. 10 years goes by quickly. It's been that long since we last updated our educational facilities plan. And it's, once again, that time. We have a few folks around who was involved in the last go-around. I think, Mr. Baker, you sat in on, were you part of the overall committee, the subcommittee?
Yes, the general committee and subcommittee as well.
2 weeks ago, I informed the board that as a result of our interview process, Sean, you weren't here for that meeting, but I'll let the board know that ZMN had been selected by our interview committee as the architectural firm to lead and guide this work. I had spoken to Dave Ferguson about the cost, and I'd shared with you, and the board actually approved the proposal for $15,000 to do that work. And I received the contract yesterday, Susan gave it to me, and I signed it, and it'll be on the upcoming board agenda to officially approve the work that will take place. And keep in mind that the state board, as well as SBA, is giving school districts $10,000 to help offset the cost of that work. So the county will be out $5,000, the board will be out $5,000 for all the work that will take place. So the day that, the last board meeting on the 16th was also the day that there was a required meeting in Charleston with the SBA staff, as well as some outside companies that's going to be working and helping guide this process. So superintendents were asked to attend, maintenance directors, treasurers. Ray was with me that day. Mr. Gosney, he had other commitment and wasn't able to attend with me, but I brought him up to speed. Listen to a presentation, and what you have in your hands is just part of that presentation. And Sean, I'll just mention to you that the full presentation is on the SBA website.
Okay.
It's several slides long. So this is just a few slides that I pulled out to share with you today. The first slide gets into the purpose of the educational facilities planning, and it just talks about long-range planning that goes into place that you need to do before any decisions are made on individual projects. When this was first enrolled or rolled out to the school districts, to superintendents, it was in January. And I had planned at that time to come to you and share this information, but I attended a WVASA meeting where we were told to hold off because some of those timelines had changed. Part of your packet that you have here, that information, is the last page, if you'll look at it, is a new timeline that was provided to us at the meeting. Completion dates. And it talks about the kickoff that happened in January. Well, the kickoff was actually just an email from the school building authority with the directions on how we were to advertise for an architect, which Greg took care of that piece, as well as a timeline that was given to us that has since been revised. So initially, we were told that we were going to have 18 months to go through this process total. So that would have been from January until July of 2020. That would have been the time that we would have already have made a decision. The state board would have acted on our CEFP, as well as the school board building authority staff. But as a result of some things not being in place in a timely fashion, we were given an extension to the timeline. And you can see that now the timeline extends into December of 2020. At that time is when we'd be able to submit an individual project for their consideration for funding. So everything's been moved forward about 4 months or so from what we were told initially, meaning that the work that's going to be involved, or that would involve the committees, which is one of the first things that we're going to have to do, is form an overall committee to lead this work. That work will take place sometime probably around the start of the school year in August. If you look over on let me see. I didn't mark the pages, but if I can find the one I want you to see. Yeah, part of the holdup was with statewide contractors. Find the page that says Dude Solutions on it. That's what I want to tell you. That's what held up the work. What they're going to do, unlike the CEFPs from the past, that were, paper and pencil documents that were put together, put in a nice big notebook, placed up on the bookshelf somewhere. This is going to be done electronically. Most of the work is going to fall on the architects. And once the board approves ZMM at next week's meeting, Dave Ferguson and his staff will start the process of visiting our schools. And they're going to use this Dude Solutions. And we have School Dude, but they also offer some other services. Facility Dude, the Works Hub. That program helps not only the committee, but the architect and engineering firms to develop goals and objectives and a community analysis even of people's input. Mr. Priest and I talked about having those public meetings that would take place at the beginning of the process in the fall, coming up with sharing the plan that we currently have, getting everyone's feedback in terms of what they'd like to see included in our facilities plan, and then going back in the spring, back to those very same schools and communities, and saying, here's our draft CEFP, additional feedback. What are your thoughts? What can we do differently, if anything? Is kind of how that would play out. So you're looking at approximately 16 meetings all together that would occur at the communities, at the schools, plus the committee work that would happen here. Because one of the things that will have to happen after the architects have gone in and assessed our buildings is that we will have to review our current CEFP. So I'm looking right now, I've talked to principals the last 2 meetings for suggestions, recommendations of people to serve on that CEFP committee. And board members, if you have any names, anyone out there, I know Larry, they've given us a couple of names when we were going through the bond referendum and brought that committee together. I would appreciate if you would give me that information so I can contact whoever it is personally and invite them to participate. Because we want people from each one of the communities to be part of that overall committee so that everyone's got a voice and a say in what we're doing. So Dude Solutions is a program the state's paying for the architects and our school district to be able to use. All the work that will take place with Dude Solutions will include a population and enrollment study. And we all know what's going on with our enrollment right now. We continue to lose students, citizens here in the county that's moving out of state. It's an issue across the state of West Virginia. And there was an article in the paper, I think it was last week, talking about the fact that West Virginia University had done some research on the loss of enrollment. And they've now increased the projections to say that we will continue to see a loss of population in West Virginia. Initially, they were saying for 15 years. Now they're saying for at least 20 years. But the trend is it's going to continue. So part of this program is to look at the trends of the population increase or decrease, looking at the enrollment piece, and then the information will help us develop an educational plan for our facilities. On this next page, it says Alpha Solutions. Alpha is another computer program that the architects, this has been purchased for the architects to use while they are evaluating our existing facilities. And somehow, and I don't understand all this technical. They had these reps there and they were sharing all this information. I don't understand how it works. But somehow, Alpha Facility Solutions Program and School Dude or Dude Solutions Program works together. So information makes its way from one of those programs into the other and vice versa. And that's what we are to use, we the committee, as well as the architect that's going to be guiding this work for us, to make some of the decisions that we're going to need to make through this process. And then this page really, I think, does a really good job of kind of summarizing what's going to happen over the next few months. They break it into phases. Phase 1, you'll see on the side it says AE firms or architectural engineering firm. They're going to be doing the evaluation and inventory of our existing facilities. That work will start very soon. They have to be finished by August 1st. So, we have 8 schools that will be visited, an inventory will be taken, and across the state, the architects have all been told, every school district, you have to be finished by the 1st of August. The statewide contractors, that's the School Dude, and the Alpha Solutions. Their responsibility is the standardization and quality. The CEFP would do the same across the state. It was explained to us 10 years ago that that process looked different from one county to the next county to the next county. And that those overall plans look very different from one county to the next. So this new process will bring everyone in line under the same umbrella, so you're comparing apples with apples across the state in terms of facility needs. And then it talks about what happens at the LEA. And that's where the committees will meet. That work will begin determining the goals and then creating the educational plan, which includes a curriculum plan, instructional plan, operations plan, support plan, and personnel plan. Phase 2 is the consulting work that takes place with the architect, working with the committee and board. They continue their work with Dude Solutions to come up with the prediction software. Again, that's what the Dude Solutions is supposed to give us based upon what the information is coming out of the Alpha Solutions program. And then as a committee, we'll be translating those educational needs into our facility needs. And then the final phase, phase 3, the architect will give us project cost estimation, as well as justification capabilities for the Dude Intelligence piece. And the committee will finally come up with a prioritized list, including the finance plans. We'll wrap up the community meetings, and then the board, local board, will approve the CEFP. And the LEA responsibilities for phase 1 is spelled out on the next page too. Just kind of rehashes and lists that information once again. And then it talks about the creation of the CEFP committee. So you'll have an overall committee, and then you'll have the subcommittees that will work on the educational plan. That would include someone looking at the curricular piece, a group that would look at an instructional plan, another small group looking at the operation side, support, and personnel. We were told, to think big, think ideally about all the phases of the educational delivery, to look at the instructional side, what we want, what we think or believe is best for kids in terms of the education they're receiving, to make both students and teachers successful in what we're doing. It's not about which schools are going to be renovated and closed. We're told that doesn't need to be part of the work that goes into what we're doing, although we know in reality, somewhere along the way, that's going to come up in these discussions, conversations. So I know that was quick. There's a lot of information. I'm just sharing just a small portion of what was shared with us. And if your head's swimming, I can tell you, I know mine was. And Ray, it was a lot of information packed into an hour and a half long presentation. And I wrote feverishly trying to keep up, with what was being said. And again, some on the technology side, some of that was over my head. It may be good for Angie to be up there with us. She probably could have translated for me what they were talking about. So, any questions?
On this chart, this phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 chart that you went over, under phase 1 in local education agency, is that to be the CEFP committee that does each of those things? And my recollection is that the CEF committee wasn't just made up of people from the community, but of people from the school system as well as people from the community. I'm not sure how, as a former member of the CEFP committee, I would have been qualified to participate in developing a curriculum plan, instructional plan, support plan, personnel plan, maybe operations plan, but I don't know how members of the general citizenry that are going to be on the CEFP committee can do these things. Who will actually have responsibility for the creation of the educational plan?
Well, I know 10 years ago, it was educational folks that did that work.
Okay,
Now, I don't know if that's going to look different because that really hasn't been spelled out. I'll mention that policy 6200, which governs the work that we do, the CEFP, is up for approval right now. It's been revised, and that could look different. But if we go back to what we did 10 years ago, those were people that worked in the school system that made those decisions.
because I don't remember those things being discussed
Yeah.
during any of the CEFP meetings that I attended.
I know there were several people here on the staff participating. I was a teacher and I participated. I was asked as well, so.
You mentioned the community meetings. I see them in phase 3, but I think you said earlier there might be community meetings at the front end.
So we'll start, when the school year gets started, then that's when we will begin to go ahead and go out to the schools and meet to share our current CEFP.
Would that be part of your regular tour in the
Yes.
fall, the usual fall cycle of visiting?
Well, this would be
Or the extra.
LSIC, this would be an
Separate.
addition.
Okay.
This would just be
The
for the
idea here is
purpose.
to go to each school, right, Jeff?
Right.
Okay.
So we would go to all 8 schools,
Okay.
share our current CEFP and ask for feedback
At the front end,
on the front end.
and then same at the end.
And then we will do all this work that I'm talking about, how all this technology piece ties together, and will give us some direction as far as the development of the CEFP, the committee.
Okay.
We'll come up with a draft plan, which we will in turn go back in the spring to each one of the schools
Okay.
and share that draft proposal and ask for feedback.
Thank you.
And then it says what? When we have to have it? July 1st, local board has to have it approved? I had one set of dates in my mind, and then everything changed. So by July of 2020, the local board must have approved the CEFP. And then in August of 2020, the state board as well as SBA will approve it. And then it looks like to me that they're going to move the project, because typically we now, if we have a needs project, we submit those in September, but it looks like in 2020, we won't do that until December, after the CPFPs have been approved. I just want, while Greg's here, I just want to, you care to mention Guy Valley, the work that we're doing over there with the gym?
Yeah, I can sure.
You care, is that okay? with the board?
Yes.
We're talking about facilities.
Some of the things we've been doing is we've taken out the bleachers during the spring break. We say that projected, they wanted like $9,000. The lowest contractor to take it out. We took it out, it was probably around $4,000 plus the steel we turned back in, probably about $1,500. We're going to get credit back from the steel that we put in. We haven't funded for it. We've taken all that out. We've assessed some areas there. We found some areas of concerns. We also found that we're going to take all the roof drains and things like that outside the building and drain them to the outside, take them out of the existing floor. We saw a lot of areas there that the floor was damaged really bad from the water. We take the other side out to the roof and then out. We were getting some water also from the back side, the river side, because the windows were being, all the windows, and somebody busted all the windows out and they had plywood up over on the inside. So we're going to put metal, like a gold type metal up there on the outside and fix that before we continue to take that floor out. Everything went fairly smooth. All the men that I had working on it done really good job on it. The next step will be to take the floor up and assess that concrete floor. It has tracks in it, they're about that wide, little tracks that used to lock that floor in. We're probably going to have to thin set that with some concrete before we can go on and put the floor in. This floor we're putting in is a lot like all the newer floors that's going in. It has a compression when you run on it, which is easier on the knees and things like that. It's going to be about 2 inches higher than the existing floor, so when we're done, we have to raise the backboards and things like that up. Cut some doors off, but we'll do all that. ways we've been doing with that. Moving along.
Plans to be finished by school beginning next year,
Yeah.
hopefully.
We don't have a board meeting today. Mr. Mikip and I was over, he was over the other day, and I was over checking, they were finishing up, and if you go in there, it's just huge now, it's just like.
It is something
Got
to see.
there's nothing in there, nothing in there, so, we would like to paint it before we put the floor down, so that's the next thing we're gonna try and do is get, items taken off the wall and do our pipe work and things like that, do fix the windows and then paint it and remove the floor, so.
And bleachers on both sides.
Yes, bleachers on both sides.
And they'll go up the same level too here.
Oh,
They'll go right up to the-
One of the things we've done is we've done a
it.
step, a 16, standard step is like a 9, we've done a 16 and a 2-foot rise like on it, so it'll be up there, but it's gonna be 3 rows shorter than was before, which actually will give you more room before, if you've been in the ballgame, people walk on the floor, officials are trying to run, keep them running into somebody.
Yeah.
So just now, you're gonna have an area back behind about 5 to 6 feet that you can walk behind, and the actual coaches can have their chairs on the floor. So you'll have a walk area away from it where you won't have it. But by putting it up back at the same level, what we're wanting to do is give you the same view you had before. We didn't want it down too low where people walking in front of you would block the view. So, take a look at that.
Sounds good. And then once again, for those who may not know, our plan is to go Guyan Valley first, and then next year we do, is it Hamlin? And the following year we do Duval, so over 2
We
years.
tried to evaluate them based on the condition they were in, and Guyan Valley being the one that needed most work, and then Hamlin would be next, and then Duval would be our final.
Ideally, or hopefully, here in 3 years, we will accomplish the renovation of all 3 of our gyms. Parks, thankfully, is newer, and it's not to that point that they may kind of.
Well, it's exciting. I know that everyone I speak to over the community, they're looking forward to having that floor and bleachers. So, I'd mentioned, because again, Sean wasn't here last meeting. I just wanted to mention, I'm sorry, Sean.
That's okay, it's all right. You have survived without me, apparently.
Shame on you.
I just wanted to mention, because I talked to you about our MIP submission, and that we were looking to replace the controls at Lincoln County High School. And I had shared with you that we were told we didn't have to come up with any money as part of our submission for the MIP, but that's now changed. So we're working with the SBA staff to come up with a number that they think that would give us a little more leg up with the authority members in terms of getting that project funded. So I will be coming back to you sometime soon to let you know what that number may look like, that figure. And one other thing, Greg, the sewer treatment plant at Midway.
They were they're gonna do startup, they were scheduled to do it Monday, they've had to roll back, it'll be Wednesday to start up, and then we'll start the process of bringing that. The old one will come out, and then they'll put the sand filter and clean that area up and get them out of there.
Thank you.
Yeah. And get them down to Duval. Now, the project we applied for, I think Mr. Meekiff sent a letter into the SBA. Because of the traffic and all the concerns and this contractor, we want to get this Duval plant done as quick as possible. So we set that, instead of starting now, we're going to wait till school's out. So there'd be no reason why they can't complete that a little quicker. With the traffic, the concern was the amount of traffic coming around there with the buses that it could cause problems there. So we decided to ask for an extension, and we went on in to get that finished before school started.
And that one should be more accessible, hopefully.
It's more accessible. The concern I have with it, and I talked to, we had a construction meeting Monday or last Friday, and where it's creek level. My concern is you get in a wet time, and hopefully it'll be drier, because you get that creek water and they can't get in there and support their pad for the new one. So I just hope that we can get that in as quick as can to get that, so that creek will right beside us. That's what I'm
That's all I have.
Okay, is there one, I'm gonna go August. Any other questions about the ELP? Once again, this is a every 10-year event for all Board of Education to do, to look for a facility for the projections of what they think they need to do for the following 10 years. But nothing prohibits you from making revisions to that during the 10-year period, right? So you can always come back and revise things if things change. Okay, thank you, Mr. McGill. All right, that concludes our presentations and reports. So now let's go to the administrative section of the agenda. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Smith?
Second.
I think Mr. Baker got that one, Mr. Curry. Okay, Mr. McGill.
Item A is out-of-state travel for the following personnel to Washington DC for the Model Schools Conference, June the 22nd through June the 26th, 2019, funded through our comprehensive support for improvements funds. Item B, school volunteers who on occasion may also serve as bus chaperones for athletic events, academic competitions, or school outings and have completed volunteer orientation. Item C, an out-of-state travel for Angela Erling to Atlanta, Georgia, June the 8th, June the 12th, 2019, for the Microsoft Business Application Summit. Item D, out-of-state trip for Duval 8th grade students to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, May 28th to 29th, 2019. Item E is the adoption of the following textbooks as recommended by the Textbook Adoption Committee for a 6-year adoption period effective with the 2019-2020 school year. You'll notice that grades K through 5 are not included. And that's because there were no materials available, no textbooks available in the social studies adoption for those grades. Now, someone out there is working on that, and I talked to Kevin Pritchard yesterday. He has a responsibility for textbook adoptions. He said that we do not have to apply for a waiver because of the fact there was no materials available for adoption, but we would soon, sometime soon, be given a set that's been state approved for us to look at and consider. I think it's just going to be one company.
You don't know, Jeff, whether or not this was a decision of the State Textbook Advisory Committee that none met their criteria, or just none were presented to them to look
There
at?
was none available. No textbook company out there had K-5 social studies.
So nationally, there aren't any.
Also, which I understood at the time, while this might be an issue, 8th grade history, West Virginia history, is not included because there was not any textbooks on those.
Well, in the past, having been a member of the Textbook Advisory Committee years ago, that was always one that was, obviously it's just for West Virginia, and typically a in-state publishing company that did that, so maybe they aren't doing it.
Well, now someone has since jumped in. There is now a textbook that is available, and at a later date, sometime soon, as a matter of fact, Mr. Pritchard said he thought he would have that ready to go for the board to approve. So, I just thought it was interesting that there was no K-5 social studies. And that's it.
Anybody have any question about any of those administrative items?
Yeah, item B, there's a Sean O'Donoghue under there. It's spelled wrong, just.
There's a correction that's necessary on item B. Let's see where that is.
Maybe I spelled it wrong on my form, but.
Your name spelling?
My name is spelled wrong, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who did that, but
We're not taking credit for it.
Probably Mr. Davis.
whoever it was, let's chastise them and make sure they correct it.
Indeed.
Didn't catch that, Sean.
That's all right.
All they have to do is read your articles and look right.
There you go, it's in the
bottom
paper
line.
once or twice.
Okay, with that correction,
Thank you.
all yes on those items. All right. Finance, go motion, please.
Second.
Mr. Curry and Mr. Wilkerson. Mr. Ellis.
Schedule of invoices totaling $685,614.89. Listing is attached. If you have any questions, let me know.
We're glad you look.
I feel worse than I look, trust me.
You look rough.
I can't believe I was able to read that.
Well, we have a nurse here in case you know it's really good bad.
Well, I diagnosed him wrong, so.
He has double pink eye. I mean, I've heard of pink eye, but double pink eye, I don't know about that. Just stay back where you are there, right?
I am.
Okay, is that all yes on these invoice requests?
Yes.
All right, thanks. Okay, personnel schedule, motion please. Mr. Curry? Mr. Baker? Mr. Limble?
Item A, employment short, long-term substitute professional personnel. Under number 2 on that, Robin Tony, which says English 5, that should be 5 through 12. Okay, item B, transfer of professional personnel, realignment within the school. C, employment of substitute service personnel. D, transfer of service personnel. E, leave of absence. F, retirement and resignations. And also correct the minutes of April 16, 2019 for Heather Bass to be hired as a sub-cook effective 2019-2020 school year. I think we made a mistake and had 8 there. She's a cook on the last agenda. And rescind the employment of Brittany Slazo, Arts PKA teacher, special ed, be effective April 30, 2019. That was due to a certification issue. And I gave you a handout of what we're trying to get these posted tomorrow. Hopefully we will. Joanne's not here today. She's at the doctor and nothing serious is wrong. But there's 27 professionals on there. It will be posted, try to get out tomorrow. Now this first time we post is the first time that you can do this. Only people able to apply is our current employees. The first time we post, these are jobs that's been saved through the year.
But that doesn't necessarily pertain to the LCHS principal job, does it?
No.
Okay.
No, it doesn't.
I'm just looking at your list here.
No, it does not.
Okay.
And I just looked at the State Department website, and everybody does not put them on there. There's 24 math jobs posted, 35 elementary, 13 science, 74 special ed, 9 music. So those very ones that we need. I mean, you know, when you talk about elementary, people used to wait 8-10 years to get an elementary job, but that's where we are. So we'll try to get those, and hopefully the board in the last year forward, last 3 years have let us come in last of May, June with a revised agenda, and that's really helped us tremendously to fill positions.
Helps expedite a little bit of that.
Yes, it does, because somebody may put in something in and we may not get a chance to interview them because the agenda has to come out on Thursday prior to. So if you let us do it again, we'd appreciate it because that really helps us.
I think it would be. Anybody have any questions about any of those? Obviously, as everyone's seen, Mr. Snyder's retiring at the high school, and that'll be something we'll be dealing with here in the next month or two. Something we'll all be paying close attention to. We wish him well for all the work he's done. We thank him. We'll try to get a good replacement for the principal of the high school. Okay, is that an all yes on the personnel schedule?
Yes.
Let's forward to the comments and concerns, please, board members, anybody? Mr. Baker.
Comments on the dress code situation at Guyan Valley. As you all know, my youngest daughter's an 8th grade student there. I got a call from her earlier this year that she had been dress coded. My experience was a little different because I hadn't gone to work yet that day. I was able to drive up, and it was really just an unfortunate set of circumstances that day. Light colored underclothing with dark colored pants that were fine until she bent over. And then you could see her underwear. So I was happy that I got that call. But I didn't get up front an explanation from the school. I had to drive up, see it for myself, and understand it. 2 weeks ago, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, picked my daughter up, and she was all up in arms over what she perceived as changes in the dress code. Things that before were going to be okay were not going to be okay now. As she explained it to me, basically, unless shorts came to the knee, they were not going to be acceptable. And that wasn't the rule at the start of the year. It was fingertips, shorts were longer than the fingertips, you were okay. Clearly, if you get a tall child, that's a different set of rules than for a child that's shorter. It's hard to find clothes. I have two daughters that are tall. It's hard to find clothes that even come, that are shorts that come to the tips of fingers. So my experience with dress coding with her was positive. I don't want her underwear showing. I don't think anybody wants their children showing inappropriate parts of school. So I guess really my comments are, I have several. I don't think there's been a change in the dress code because I haven't received written confirmation of it. I think if there is going to be a change in the dress code, parents should receive clear, concise, written explanation of what the dress code was, what it's going to be. I think the same holds true if there's going to be a change in enforcement of the dress code. Because I do know for an absolute fact that clothes that have been worn for the majority of the part of the year are suddenly not acceptable. So if there's a change in it, if the rule doesn't change, but the way it's being enforced changes, parents need to understand that. I work, a lot of parents work, even for the parents that don't work, a lot of them can't stop at 9 o'clock in the morning and drive to school to change clothes to their child. An obvious solution, I guess, would be, just in case that on any given day, clothes that were acceptable are suddenly deemed unacceptable, you have something in your locker. Whether or not you're allowed to go to your locker and get clothes out, that's one of those ugly rumors I've heard. I don't know whether you are or not, heard it or not. If that's true, that's silly. But again, that's something I've heard. I don't know whether that's valid or not. So I don't think it would make sense to make a change in the dress code at this point in time of the year. Parents have bought clothing that's been acceptable for the majority of the year, to ask parents to go out and buy clothes for 1 month for kids that are growing. Chances are what they buy now they're not going to be able to wear next year is financially detrimental. If we're going to be this draconian at one educational institution about a dress code, I want to see a countywide dress code. If we don't have one, I want one that governs every school. Because right now, at certain schools, kids can wear basically what they want, and it's not an issue. At Guyan Valley, it is an issue. And if that's going to be the case at one school, it's going to be the case at all schools. Because everybody, I don't think anybody wants to violate the rules, but I don't know what the rules are. I think a lot of parents at Guyan Valley don't know what the rules are in terms of how you dress your children. So if we're going to have this floating set of rules, we need something concrete as a parent. We need something concrete. I need to know what is and what isn't right. So if I get a call that says your daughter's shorts are too short, I can then say, well, do her fingertips cover them? Yes, then they're not too short. Let's move along. And I just don't know why this is suddenly. I mean, I heard what Mrs. Miller said as to what she had been told justification was for suddenly either changing or enforcing the dress code to a new level. And I suppose there's some merit in that, but I tend to agree with Mrs. Miller in terms of keep your hands off. If I had a son, he grabbed the girl by the butt, he would get the crap wore out of him when he got home. But I'm old school in terms of parenting. Same token, I don't, a lot of these things, I mean, I've seen pictures of some of these clothes that are alleged dress code violations. Go out to social media, you can see pictures of them. And I don't see a problem with a lot of them. I mean, are they clothes that I would expect a professional to wear to work? No. But that's not how we require our kids to dress. We don't have a uniform. We don't have a set uniform in each school in this county. If we're going, though, to have this arbitrary enforcement of a dress code, I'm going to take that away somehow, or do everything I can to take it away. I want to know what is and what isn't right. And if it needs to be done at the county level, to make sure that we have a sensible policy on dress code, then let's do that. That's my comments. I'm finished.
Mr. Weaver, did you get a copy of the dress code at the start of school year?
I think we did.
It's in their agenda.
Yeah.
It's in the agenda.
Ms. Big, if you want to
We do have a county dress code. It's very vague, general, you know, in what it goes into. Over the years, schools have come up with guidelines that are much more detailed. Some schools far more so than others. It's one of the things that Mr. Linville and I, through what's been shared with us and what we've been looking at, dress codes for all 8 schools, we're all over the place in terms of what the school, individual schools have come up with. So we've talked about putting a committee, a group of people, to take a look at this and come up with a set of guidelines that were consistent across the county. Because this kind of thing, this issue about dress codes comes up every year. It's not unique to one particular school. We get comments, concerns from parents. Some praising the school for, for trying to enforce dress code, and others, of course, are not happy at all. So,
If we come up with a dress code for the children, we also need to come up with one for the teachers.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I agree.
For the employees.
Right. Amen.
All I can say to that is amen.
Okay, well, apparently then that's in the works if that's your
And again, we just had a couple of conversations, Mr. Mickle and I, it's the first time I've said anything to anyone else other than him about what we should do. So,
Of course, we need to do that, and we will do that. Now, the enforcement of dress codes, you've got 8 schools with people who have varying degrees of, some are more lax and more strict than others. That's always going to be a factor, but at least you have something to base it upon. And if we have a county dress code that is sent to all parents, then they know what the dress code is. We may sometime get a complaint that somebody's violated the dress code. That's possible, once again, either by oversight, someone doesn't see it, or they think it's okay. But I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Mr. O'Donoghue.
So this committee, if it was formed, would look at reviewing or enhancing the county policy, perhaps. Okay. And this committee might be made up of principals and parents,
teachers,
perhaps?
parents,
Okay.
we would like to have some,
Okay.
input or say in what we'll look like. It's fine.
Yeah,
Like I said, we just had some quick conversations, not anything in detail.
Thanks.
Now, am I assuming here, Jeff, that should we do this, that the principals then wouldn't have discretion to add to?
Right,
the
we would
firm?
lock it down and everyone is on the same.
So they can't just take things away or add things?
Right.
Okay.
That would be the goal.
And I think we should realize, and you didn't tell me when, you said that the policy that's in place, the county policy was written a long time ago, that reality is that we're a lot different society now than we were probably when that was written. The clothing that's available is a lot different. What's deemed socially acceptable now is a lot different than what it was 30, 40 years ago. And so one piece of advice I would give is that we do have parents of kids from each age level that can provide representative knowledge of what is current. I mean, certain things are clear. We don't want body parts hanging out. I don't want to see a boy's chest any more than I do a girl's in school. Tank tops. When I was in school, we wore tank tops. It wasn't a problem. Girls we didn't get to wear shorts though. That's my recollection. We wore jeans. Boys wore jeans year round. We're not allowed to wear shorts. I'm like, girls wear either. That's not the way society operates today. I'm not asking or suggesting that we have a draconian policy in place, but that we have something that's reasonable and takes into account what kids really wear these days. And what parents, as a rule, not the parents that are on either fringe, the ultra conservative or the ultra liberal, want to dress their children in. But the parents under the bell curve, how they dress their children in this day and age, what do they deem acceptable?
Yeah,
And
the thing of it is, Rowdy, what was morally right 40 years ago is morally right today. Now, that's the bottom line.
Well, if we want to have a dedicated uniform for each child in the county, then we specify what that uniform is and we pay for it as a board.
No, I'm not
We're not
talking
going to do
about a
that.
uniform. You know what I'm talking about.
I mean,
Wearing shorts up here is not appropriate.
Oh, it wasn't 40 years ago, it's not today. I think that shorts that come to the ends of the fingertips when you're standing, good Lord, I'm short, but a pair of shorts that does that for me comes almost to my knee. Now, for a taller person, they won't come up as high, they won't be as low. But that's the kind of rule we can all follow as parents. We can understand that. We have a kid stand up in the morning, they go to the store trying to close. Do your fingertips, or is there short protruding below the fingertips? If so, those are okay. Now, I mean, obviously, you can get into, well, is it a hair's width longer than my fingertips? I really can't tell if it's longer than your fingers. That's splitting hairs. We don't want that. I just want something clear, concise, that's easy for everybody to understand. I don't want kids that are scantily clad in school. It does distract. Did back when I was in school. Probably still does. But that's not what anybody's upset over. It's that we send our kids to school one day, and the clothes they wear are okay. We send them in the same clothes the next week, and they're not okay. And we have to leave work to take a change of clothes if our kids are allowed to call us and tell us about it. So, anyway.
Public comments welcome at this point as well.
Ms. Miller.
Actually, we have an example. She was called to the office today for her clothes.
But she wore these last week, this exact outfit, last Tuesday, and was sent to the office and was told that it was fine, but was sent back to of course, this probably isn't the best word to work for this, and was sent back today over this same outfit.
Because my shorts are too
Because
short.
now it's not.
And the headbands are
Below
not
her fingertips.
appropriate anymore. And I know my daughter wears them. She plays sports, so she wears headbands all the time, but they're not appropriate because they're insinuating gang relation.
Well, these are all the things that we'll have to look at. Things brought up in various articles and plug in.
Yeah.
Just have to-
The headband represents, Guy and Valley, we are told that it represents gangs.
Well, we'll look at all clothing apparel that we do this. I'm sure they'll try to do that once we get this right. And then the board ultimately will try to come up with something that's reasonable and, that meets everybody's needs, but at the same time, so reflects what a school should be. Okay? Any board members have any other topics? Okay, I wanted to share one thing with you now. A couple of weeks ago, I don't think Sean was here when I did this.
I'm going to give him a compliment.
Never take a vacation again.
No, he may be. But we went over the individual school audit reports. You know, those have been done for this school term, and we've gotten those back. Now, Mr. Wilkerson took them home. I'd already reviewed them. They came to me. Mr. Wilkerson took them home. Now, he has them. He's sharing them with Mr. Curry, who next week will bring them back, and then we'll let you all look at them. But those are the school reports. Now, what we've gotten this past week are the central office reports, for the audit reports. Those have been finalized. Now, we gave you a little summary of that here about a month ago, wasn't it, Jeff? When we had our exit conference. But we've gotten the formal report that we've gotten now. Now, Ray, you didn't copy this for board members, did you?
He did. They're down there on my table.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Okay, so I'm not going to have to share this with all of you all because Mr. Midkiff has a copy of the state. Now, this is the central office, but it's both state and federal monies and how all those were dealt with, okay? And those are available, Sean, for both of these audits are available for public inspection by anybody who wants to look at them. But we have received this one. Just a couple of clips I wanted to note here. As you recall, on our individual school audits, we had some areas of recommendation, some areas that needed to be improved upon, but there were no major infractions at any of our schools with their accounting, with the financial thing. The same is true here of the central office. Now, I've just highlighted a couple of things. This is addressed to me, so it just says, you're required to notify all members of the governing body of the receipt of this report and related correspondence and make the contents available for inspection by all such officers. So once again, we've made copies for Jeff or Mr. Ellis Happer of those for you. You were also advised that this report, under provisions of West Virginia Code 699A, is considered public information, must be made available for public inspection. Therefore, anyone that wants to see it may do so by contacting Mr. Ellis. Your audit is posted to the West Virginia State Auditor's website. If anybody wants to go there, and we've kind of gotten a little bit of what that's all about here today. I'll just go over to the last part here. We are pleased to note that that the audit report does not contain instances of non-compliance. However, it does contain certain internal weaknesses. There remains a responsibility of all members of the governing body to review the audit report and strive to maintain a high quality of service for the community. So once again, in all of our audits for both schools and here at the board office, No major areas of noncompliance, so we commend everybody's work that has done that. That's certainly what we'd like to see, as do everybody in the public. So, Mr. Ellis, thank you for all of your all's work, and keep up the good work, I would say. But once again, you will provide these to everybody once you get it.
If you want it today, I can get it for you. If not, I'll give it to you next Tuesday's board.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's all I had.
One thing I just wanted to mention, and really is just a reminder that graduation is Friday, May the 24th. Talked to Mr. Snyder one day last week. He said invitations will be mailed out soon. He didn't have a start time for graduation, but I just wanted to make sure it was on your calendar.
School will be outside this year, aren't we?
Yes, keep our fingers crossed, the weather cooperates.
Okay, all right. Is that all you did there?
That's it, that's all.
Very good. Okay.
It's the same question.
Okay. If nothing further, then we'll adjourn until Tuesday, May the 7th, 2019, at 6 o'clock p.m. here in Hamlet. Have a motion to adjourn, please. Mr. Wilkerson. Mr. Perry. All yes?
Yes.